Welcome back, dear friends, to another exciting episode of Exploring the Advent of Divine Justice. We are now starting part 18, and this part 18 is covering paragraphs 74 through 80. And without any further ado, we'll have our opening prayer. Thank you so much.
From the tablets of the Divine Plan, revealed to the Baha'is of the United States and Canada. O thou incomparable God, O thou Lord of the kingdom, these souls are thy heavenly army. Assist them, and with the cohorts of the Supreme Concourse, make them victorious, so that each one of them may become like unto a regiment and conquer these countries through the love of God and the illumination of divine teachings. O God, be thou their supporter and their helper, and in the wilderness, the mountain, the valley, the forest, the prairies, and the seas, be thou their confidant, so that they may cry out through the power of the kingdom and the breath of the Holy Spirit. Verily thou art the powerful, the mighty, and the omnipotent. Thou art the wise, the hearing, and the seeing. Abdul Baha.
Thank you very much, Pat. And welcome back, everyone. This is going to be another great session. So before we get into it, and I just want to recap where we are in this section of Advent of Divine Justice. We're starting paragraph 74 through 80. And in this one, paragraph 74, it starts on page 73. How is that? So page 73, so paragraph 74 starts there. And in this one, it starts at the bottom of page 40. Okay, so page 40 in this one. And the paragraph starts the teaching campaign. So that's, if you want to follow along, it says the teaching campaign. That's paragraph 74. Okay, so we're now at this point in the text. We have covered already the spiritual prerequisites, namely rectitude of conduct, chaste and holy life, and freedom from racial prejudices. Last week with Miss Karen, we covered what this creative power, this transformative power that is necessary and fundamental and for every one of us to harness through reliance on Him, through meditation as well as prayer, so that we become, per se, a vehicle for teaching. This is something that we have to internalize, bring into our being, so that we can harness this power. So we talked about that in our last session. Now, in this session, we're going to talk more about the qualities and requirements for what a teacher needs to do. And in this great prayer that dear Pat read, and I wanted to share my insight when dear Pat was saying this prayer. O thou incomparable God, O thou Lord of the kingdom, these souls are thy heavenly army. Do we see ourselves as a heavenly army? This is very important, dear friends. We have to reflect. Where are we in this army? Are we at the very back of the army and just watching a few individuals, champion this cause? Or are we in the vanguard? Are we active in this army? The first three parts, rectitude of conduct, chaste and holy life, freedom from racial prejudices. What is this? This is our boot camp. This is our preparation. For every army, they have to get ready. They need training. So this is our boot camp. The beloved guardian says this is the spiritual prerequisites for teaching, right? So this is boot camp. Now, what is this part of the text? This is the weaponry. This is the actual gun per se. You got to have a good gun. You have to prepare yourself, and you have to keep your gun properly cleaned, and you have to have the right ammunition. So when you go out into the warfare, this is spiritual warfare. We're trying to conquer hearts, right? Through love, through kindness, through our transformative being, and you got to have the right weaponry. So this is now, in that sense, the spiritual warfare, in that sense. You understand? So this is in that analogy of that we are in God's army. So now let us get into our session. Okay, let me share my screen. This is going to be another great session. Okay, here we go. And Zoom. There we go. Okay, let me do that. And here we go. So getting back into it, paragraph 74 through 80. The subjects and themes in these paragraphs are preparation for teaching and the conduct of teaching campaigns, as well as it is a mandate to teach, the mandate of teaching. Okay, so these are the themes that are covered in paragraphs 74 through 80. Okay, so let us now start reading these texts, and then we will get into our discussions as always. Okay, so our first reader, dear friends, is going to be my dear friend, Miss Yuda Miller. You are up, my friend. So just unmute yourself and go for it. Thank you.
Paragraph 74. The teaching campaign inaugurated throughout the states of the North American Republic and the Dominion of Canada acquires therefore an importance and is invested with an urgency that cannot be overestimated. Launched on its course through the creative energies released by the will of Abdu'l-Baha and sweeping across the Western Hemisphere through the propelling force which it is generating, it must, I feel, be carried out in conformity with certain principles designed to ensure its efficient conduct and to hasten the attainment of its objective.
Beautifully read, Ms. Yuda. Thank you so much. Okay, in a longer paragraph, Ms. Karen O'Brien, if you could do this one, thank you.
Those who participate in such a campaign, whether in an organizing capacity or as workers to whose care the execution of the task itself has been committed, must, as an essential preliminary to discharge of their duties, thoroughly familiarize themselves with the various aspects of the history and teachings of their faith. In their efforts to achieve this purpose, they must study for themselves, conscientiously and painstakingly, the literature of their faith, delve into its teachings, assimilate its laws and principles, ponder its admonitions, tenets, and purposes, commit to memory certain of its exhortations and prayers, master the essentials of its administration, and keep abreast of its current affairs and latest developments. They must strive to obtain from sources that are authoritative and unbiased a sound knowledge of the history and tenets of Islam, the source and background of their faith, and approach reverently and with a mind purged from preconceived ideas, the study of the Quran, which, apart from the sacred scriptures of the Babi and Baha'i revelations, constitutes the only book which can be regarded as an absolutely authenticated repository of the Word of God. They must devote special attention to the investigation of those institutions and circumstances that are directly connected with the origin and birth of their faith, with the station claimed by its forerunner, and with the laws revealed by its author.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ms. Karen. Right. And let us go to Miss Dini, please. Thank you.
Having acquired in their essentials these prerequisites of success in the teaching field, they must, whenever they contemplate undertaking any specific mission in the countries of Latin America, endeavor whenever feasible to acquire a certain proficiency in the languages spoken by the inhabitants of those countries and a knowledge of their customs, habits, and outlook. The teachers going to those parts, Abdu'l-Baha referring in his one of the tablets of the Divine Plan to the Central American republics, has written, must also be familiar with the Spanish language. A party speaking their languages, he in another tablet has written, must turn their faces to and travel through the 3 great island groups of the Pacific Ocean. The teachers traveling in different directions, he further states, must know the language of the country in which they will enter. For example, a person being proficient in the Japanese language may travel to Japan, or a person knowing the Chinese language may hasten to China, and so forth.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Dini. Okay, we're on to paragraph 77. And let us have Miss Marianne, please. Miss Marianne.
No participator in this inter-American campaign of teaching must feel that the initiative for any particular activity connected with this work must rest solely with those agencies, whether assemblies or committees, whose special concern is to promote and facilitate the attainment of this vital objective of the 7-year plan. It is the bounden duty of every American believer as the faithful trustee of Abdu'l-Baha's divine plan to initiate, promote, and consolidate within the limits fixed by the administrative principles of the faith any activity he or she deems fit to undertake for the furtherance of the plan. Neither the threatening world situation nor any consideration of lack of material resources, of mental equipment, of knowledge or of experience, desirable as they are, should deter any prospective pioneer teacher from arising independently and from setting in motion the forces which Abdu'l-Baha has repeatedly assured us will, once released, attract even as a magnet the promised and infallible aid of Baha'u'llah. Let him not wait for any directions or expect any special encouragement from the elected representatives of his community, nor be deterred by any obstacles which his relatives or fellow citizens may be inclined to place in his path, nor mind the censure of his critics or enemies.
Thank you, Miss Marianne. Thank you. Don, could you read this paragraph, please? Oh, Don may have just stepped out. Oh, he's coming back in. Here he is. Don, could you read this paragraph, please? There we go. Go for it, Don. This is for you.
I'm sorry, my computer crashed. What did you say?
This one is for you to read, Don. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
I will do that. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Be unrestrained as the wind is Baha'u'llah's counsel to every would-be teacher of his cause. While carrying the message of him who hath caused the dawn of divine guidance to break. Consider how the wind, faithful to that which God hath ordained, bloweth upon all regions of the earth, be they inhabited or desolate. Neither the sight of desolation nor the evidences of prosperity can either pain or please it. It bloweth in every direction as bidden by its creator. And when he determineth to leave his home for the sake of the cause of his Lord, Baha'u'llah in another passage, referring to such teacher, has revealed, let him put his whole trust in God as the best provision for his journey, and array himself with the robe of virtue. If he be kindled by the fire of his love, if he forgoeth of all created things, the words he uttereth shall set on fire them that hear him.
Thank you very much, Don. All right. We're on to paragraph.
Sorry, my computer crashed.
No worries. Thank you, Don. Okay. Riaz John, could you read this part of paragraph 78?
Having on his own initiative and undotted by any hindrances with which either friend or foe may unwittingly or deliberately obstruct his path, resolve to arise and respond to the call of teaching. Let him carefully consider every avenue of approach which he might utilize in his personal attempts to capture the attention, maintain the interest, and deepen the faith of those whom he seeks to bring into the fold of his faith. Let him survey the possibilities which the particular circumstances in which he lives offer him, evaluate their advantages, and proceed intelligently and systematically to utilize them for the achievement of the object he has in mind. Let him also attempt to devise such methods as association with clubs, exhibitions, and societies, lectures on subjects akin to the teachings and ideals of his cause, such as temperance, morality, social welfare, religious and racial tolerance, economic cooperation, Islam, and comparative religion, or participation in social, cultural, humanitarian, charitable, and educational organizations and enterprises which, while safeguarding the integrity of his faith, will open up to him a multitude of ways and means whereby he can enlist successively the sympathy, the support, and ultimately the allegiance of those with whom he comes in contact.
Thank you, dear Ryosan. Thank you. I'll read this one. Let him, while such contacts are being made, bear in mind the claims which his faith is constantly making upon him to preserve its dignity and station, to safeguard the integrity of its laws and principles, to demonstrate its comprehensiveness and universality, and to defend fearlessly its manifold and vital interests. Let him consider the degree of his hearers' receptivity and decide for himself the suitability of either the direct or indirect method of teaching, whereby he can impress upon the seeker the vital importance of the divine message and persuade him to throw in his lot with those who have already embraced it. Let him remember the example set by Abdul Baha and his constant admonition to shower such kindness upon the seeker and exemplify to such a degree the spirit of the teachings he hopes to instill into him, that the recipient will be spontaneously impelled to identify himself with the cause embodying such teachings. Let him refrain at the outset from insisting on such laws and observances as might impose too severe a strain on the seeker's newly awakened faith, and endeavor to nurse him patiently, tactfully, and yet determinedly into full maturity, and aid him to proclaim his unqualified acceptance of whatever has been ordained by Baha'u'llah. Let him, as soon as that stage has been attained, introduce him to the body of his fellow believers and seek through constant fellowship and active participation in the local activities of his community to enable him to contribute his share to the enrichment of his life, the furtherance of its tasks, the consolidations of its interests, and the coordination of its activities with those of its sister communities. Let him not be content until he has infused into his spiritual child so deep a longing as to impel him to arise independently in his turn and devote his energies to the quickening of other souls and the upholding of the laws and principles laid down by his newly adopted faith. All right, let us go to Miss Valerie. Miss Valerie, if you could kindly so read.
Let every participator in the continent-wide campaign initiated by the American believers, and particularly those engaged in pioneer work in virgin territories, bear in mind the necessity of keeping in close and constant touch with those responsible agencies designed to direct, coordinate, and facilitate the teaching activities of the entire community, whether it be the body of their elected national representatives or its chief auxiliary institution, the National Teaching Committee, or its subsidiary organs, the regional teaching committees, or the local spiritual assemblies, and their respective teaching committees. They who labor for the spread of the cause of Baha'u'llah should, through constant interchange of ideas, through letters, circulars, reports, bulletins, and other means of communication with these established instruments designed for the propagation of the faith, ensure the smooth and speedy functioning of the teaching machinery of their administrative order. Confusion, delay, duplication of efforts, dissipation of energy will thereby be completely avoided, and the mighty flood of the grace of Baha'u'llah flowing abundantly and without the least obstruction through these essential channels will so inundate the hearts and souls of men as to enable them to bring forth the harvest repeatedly predicted by Abdu'l-Baha.
Beautifully read, Miss Valerie. Thank you. And our last paragraph. Let us have Miss Mary McGregor, if so kind. Good to have you.
Upon every participator in this concerted effort, unprecedented in the annals of the American Baha'i community, rests the spiritual obligation to make of the mandate of teaching, so vitally binding upon all, the all-pervading concern of his life. In his daily activities and contacts, in all his journeys, whether for business or otherwise, on his holidays and outings, and on any mission he may be called upon to undertake, every bearer of the message of Baha'u'llah should consider it not only an obligation, but a privilege to scatter far and wide the seeds of his faith, and to rest content in the abiding knowledge that whatever be the immediate response to that message, and however inadequate the vehicle that conveyed it, the power of its author will, as he sees fit, enable those seeds to germinate, and in circumstances which no one can foresee, enrich the harvest which the labor of his followers will gather. If he be member of any spiritual assembly, let him encourage his assembly to consecrate a certain part of its time at each of its sessions to the earnest and prayerful consideration of such ways and means as may foster the campaign of teaching, or may furnish whatever resources are available for its progress, extension, and consolidation.
Very well read, Miss Mary. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And if you, her great counterpart, Mr. Dennis, please. There you go.
I won't mute it yet then. Okay. All right. If he attends his summer school, and everyone without exception is urged to take advantage of attending it, let him consider such an occasion as a welcome and precious opportunity so to enrich, through lectures, study, and discussion, his knowledge of the fundamentals of his faith, as to be able to transmit with greater confidence and effectiveness the message that has been entrusted to his care. Let him, moreover, seek whenever feasible, through intercommunity visits, to stimulate the zeal for teaching, to demonstrate to outsiders the zest and alertness of the promoters of his cause, and the organic unity of its institutions.
There we go. Those are the paragraphs. Excellently read. Thank you, Dennis. And all of the readers, thank you. So these are the paragraphs 74 through 80. And we'll just go through a quick snapshot, as we sometimes do, as we go through them, just highlighting on some of what it is, and then we'll go into the intensive study as we always do. So here the beloved guardian, Shorai Effendi, is now addressing the requirements for a teaching campaign. And as you all know, this is the first 7-year plan was launched in 1937. And so this was written December 25th, 1938. And so he's now laying out the requirements for a successful teaching campaign here. And so he's addressing the North American Republic and the Dominion of Canada, right? And it says that the Friends are invested by the hope, the creative energies released by the will of Abdu'l-Baha, and it's sweeping across this Western hemisphere. These energies that Miss Karen O'Brien was talking about, these creative energies just being generated through the power of this transformative power coming from this divine source. These energies are being released. So, and it calls upon us. It says at the very end, it says, with certain principles designed to ensure its efficient conduct and to do what? To hasten the attainment of its objective. These energies are calling upon us to hasten this objective. So as we move into paragraph 75, this was the long paragraph that Ms. Karen read, and this is the one that is really calling upon us first and foremost to study, and deepen. So this is what it says. First and foremost, we've got to do what? For the execution of this task, an essential preliminary for the discharge of our duties, thoroughly familiarize ourselves. History, teachings of the faith. The purpose they must study for themselves conscientiously, painstakingly. It's not an easy thing. It's painful sometimes. Painstakingly. The literature of faith, delve into its teachings, assimilate. Assimilate means take it into us. It becomes part of us. Its laws, its principles, and then ponder, admonition, tenets, purposes. And in our last section, we talked about the importance of memorization. Here, commit to memory certain exhortations, prayers, master the essentials of its administration. So these are the things that beloved guardian is saying we got to do first and foremost. Then, very interestingly, it says we have to study Islam. Why? Because it's the source and background of our faith. It says it right there. We should have an unbiased and a sound knowledge of the history and tenets of Islam because it's the source and background of their faith. And approach reverently with a mind purged from preconceived ideas, the study of the Quran, which apart from the sacred scriptures of the Babi and Baha'i revelations, constitutes the only book which can be regarded as authenticated. So these are things that the beloved guardian is saying we must do first in that sense, is have this sound knowledge of the faith. Then, having acquired all of these essentials and also the prerequisites for success, and those prerequisites were rectitude of conduct, chaste and holy life, and freedom from racial prejudice, then they must, must contemplate undertaking specific missions in the countries of Latin America. So after they've done those requirements of success, as well as those essentials which we just talked about, then they need to contemplate, go and do it. So now they have to go to Latin America. And then the beloved guardian in paragraph 76 says, you can't really go to these places until you know the language of the country of its origin. So it says here, the teacher is going to those parts. Abdu'l-Baha, referring in one of his tablets of the divine plan to Central American republics, has written, must also be familiar with the Spanish language. A party speaking their languages, he in another tablet has written, must turn their faces to and travel through the 3 great island groups in the Pacific Ocean. And then it goes on, he says the teacher is traveling in different directions, he further states, must know the language of the country in which they will enter. For example, if a person being proficient in Japanese, he may travel to Japan. And a person knowing Chinese language may hasten to China. So if you're planning to go pioneering, you got to know the language first before you enter into that country. This is from Tablets of the Divine Plan. Paragraph 77 then goes more into this inter-American campaign of teaching. And it says in this paragraph, talking about how important it is, and that we, as Baha'is, that it is the bounden duty. The bounden duty is a spiritual mandate upon us, bounden duty of every American believer as a faithful trustee of Abdu'l-Baha's divine plan. What language? Do you see yourself as a faithful trustee of the Abdu'l-Baha's divine plan? To do what? These three things: initiate, promote, and consolidate. So you have to initiate your own teaching campaigns, and then promote them, and then consolidate. These are it reminds me of the steps of the reflection process. So we have our intensives, then we have the reflection, and then we have the consolidation period. Exactly the same. See, same language here. So this is neither the threatening world situation or the consideration of lack of material resources or mental equipment should deter any prospective pioneer teaching from arising independently and from setting in motion the forces which Abdu'l-Baha has repeatedly assured us were once released, attracted even as a magnet the promised and infallible aid of Baha'u'llah. Then I love this. Let him not wait for any directions or expect any special encouragement from the elected representatives of his community, nor be deterred by any obstacles which his relatives or fellow citizens may be inclined to place in his path, nor mind the censure of his critics or enemies. And then comes this incredible line: be unrestrained as the wind. This is the line that Don read. Be unrestrained as the wind is Baha'u'llah's counsel. Are we unrestrained as the wind in our campaigns of teaching? This is what Baha'u'llah is calling us to do. Be unrestrained as the wind, while carrying the message of him who have caused the dawn of divine guidance to break. Consider how the wind, faithful to that which God hath ordained, bloweth upon all regions of the earth. So this is the exhortation of Baha'u'llah. And we read this. So, and then in paragraph 78, this is one of my most favorite of all paragraphs in the whole of Advent of Divine Justice, paragraph 78, because this shows how the process of scientifically studying the process of going into the field of teaching. And how do you do it? Paragraph 78. So having on his own initiative and undaunted by any hindrances. So first of all, you got to do it independently. Got to do it on your own initiative and undaunted. No fear by any hindrances, right? By friend or foe, unwittingly or deliberately obstruct his path. Then you resolve to arise and respond to the call of teaching. Then here it comes. Let him carefully consider every avenue of approach which he might utilize in his personal attempts to capture the attention, maintain the interest, and deepen the faith of those whom he seeks to bring into the fold of the faith. There is a prescription. You got to consider every avenue. You got to consider everything. Let him survey the possibilities which the particular circumstances in which he lives offer him, evaluate their advantages, and proceed intelligently and systematically to utilize them for the achievement of the object he has in mind. Do you see how scientific it is? You first survey all the possibilities. Then you proceed intelligently and systematically. So brilliant. This is the scientific approach that the beloved guardian is employing in our approach to the study as well, not only for the study of the faith, but also to the approach of teaching the cause. Then 6 times here in paragraph 78, the beloved guardian calls upon and says, let him, and let him So these are all the 6 things. We'll get into these things. And then in paragraph 79, it says, talking about this continent-wide campaign and talking about that we have to call upon, have this constant communication also with the teaching committees that we're, and have this constant interchange of ideas through letters, circulars, reports, bulletins. So when you're a pioneer, you're not an isolated event. We should have this continual communication. And in paragraph 80, then it says, upon every participator in this concerted effort. Now, how many times have we heard this type of terminology, concerted effort? We've heard this 4 times in different languages. One was supreme effort, one was tremendous effort, and again, concerted effort. And those other times were in regards to freedom from racial prejudices. So now the beloved guardian in paragraph 80 is talking about a concerted effort towards teaching. Concerted means keep it up. It's a long-lasting effort, right? But this should be the all-pervading concern of your life. In what? His daily activities, his contacts, his journeys, his business, his holidays and outings, and every mission. Where did we see this before? I remember we saw this, I believe, off the top of my head, it was in paragraph, I believe it was paragraph 32. And again, it came up in the paragraph 50s, where the beloved guardian, it says, in every single space, the watchword should be freedom from racial prejudices. And it was in this space and in that space and in this space and in that space. Do you recall that? So that was in regards to that spiritual prerequisite of freedom from racial prejudices. But now we're seeing what is the entire purposes for those spiritual prerequisites. It's for teaching. Those were the preparation for the teaching work. And this is our spiritual obligation. It is our mandate given to us by Abdul Baha. And this is now here in paragraph 80. It says in every space, whether it's our vacations or whether it's our work, any space, it should become our obligation. Excellent. That was a long recap, and I apologize, but those were some, just going over some of those highlights from those paragraphs. Excellent. So now let us get into going into the paragraphs, the introduction to the paragraphs, and then into the major key points. Okay, so these paragraphs, the beloved guardian provides us the principles for conducting the teaching campaigns that had started in North America as part of the first 7-year plan. This was inaugurated in 1937. And the guidance provided by Shoghi Effendi describes both the preparation and effective execution for these teaching plans. Okay? Okay. So let us now get into some of these major key points. Let us have another reader. Very good. Okay, our next reader will be Miss Karen, if you could be so kind and take us through this one.
Okay. Major key points from paragraphs 74 through 80. A teaching campaign should be planned, have clear objectives, and be carried out systematically. Those preparing for a teaching campaign should initially study the history, teachings, and administration of the faith, and be aware of all events associated with it. They should learn the language and culture of the region where they are planning to pioneer and teach.
Thank you, Ms. Karen. All right. And our next reader, let's have Miss Marianne, please.
Major key points from paragraph 74 to 80. Everyone should use his or her initiative to find the most efficient approach for the proposed teaching campaign. They should not wait for instructions from the administrative order. The believer who wishes to pioneer should not be deterred by lack of experience or resources, the opposition of family and friends, or by the volatility of world events. When a teacher places his whole trust in God and is adorned with virtues, kindled with the love of Baha'u'llah, and detached, his words will influence others.
Excellent. Very well read. All right. And let us go to Dear Pat.
Teachers should be as unrestrained as the wind. A teacher of the faith should consider the degree of his hearers' receptivity and decide for himself the suitability of either the direct or indirect method of teaching. The obligation to teach should be the all-pervading concern of the lives of those who participate in teaching campaigns.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. There we go. So those are some of the major key points from paragraph 74 through 80. So now we're going to start studying these paragraphs. All right. In paragraph 74 through 76, the beloved guardian highlights some of the important preparations that teachers of the faith should make. And in paragraph 75, this is the long one that Karen read, it said, Shoghi Effendi asserts that the essential preliminary stage in preparation for teaching, the friends should familiarize themselves with the history and teachings of the faith. Teaching is a duty for everyone, not just for a special group or category of friends. And here, dear friends, this is a letter written on behalf of the beloved guardian. And let me get Miss Dini to read this page. This one is a great letter, please.
In a letter dated September 21st, 1957, written on behalf of the beloved guardian to the National Spiritual Assembly of the United States, Shoghi Effendi states, "It is not enough for the friends to make the excuse that their best teachers and their exemplary believers have arisen and answered the call to pioneer. A, quote, best teacher and an, quote, exemplary believer is ultimately neither more nor less than an ordinary Baha'i who has consecrated himself to the work of the faith, deepened his knowledge and understanding of its teachings, placed his confidence in Baha'u'llah, and arisen to serve him to the best of his ability. This door is one which we are assured will open before the face of every follower of the faith who knocks hard enough, so to speak. When the will and the desire are strong enough, the means will be found to go to a new goal town within the United States or to enter the foreign pioneer field. And then present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, well-pleasing to God, which is your reasonable service." From Romans 12:1. Consecrate yourself, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. I think that says John 3:5.
Joshua chapter.
Oh, Joshua, thank you.
Yes. Joshua chapter 3, verse 5. Excellent read. Thank you, Ms. Dini. Yes, so here it says in this letter from the beloved guardian that it is not enough for the friends to make this excuse that they're not the best teachers and they're not exemplary believers. And those really good believers, they've gone already and done it. So And here the beloved guardian, it says, any ordinary Baha'i who has consecrated himself to the work of the faith, deepened his knowledge and understanding of his teachings, and placed his confidence in Baha'u'llah, and arisen to serve him to the best of his ability, is a best teacher. So this is what the beloved guardian is saying. This is what he is mandating us to do. Okay? Excellent. Very well read. Thank you. Now, this is in paragraph 75. The beloved guardian identifies specific areas of deepening that should be considered during this preparation process. Those who participate in teaching campaigns. So, what are these specific areas? We must study for themselves conscientiously and painstakingly the literature of their faith. Delve into its teachings. Assimilate its laws and principles. Ponder its admonitions, its tenets and purposes. Commit to memory certain of its exhortations and prayers. Master the essentials of its administration, and keep abreast of its current affairs and latest developments. So these are just some of the things that we need to do in this preparation process that the beloved guardian is identified. All right, and this is from another letter from the beloved guardian. So this is to the Hands of the Cause in the United States. So let me get another reader. All right, Riaz John, you're up. Riaz John, good to see you.
The beloved guardian has stressed over and over again that to effectively teach the faith, the individual must study deeply the divine word, imbibe its life-giving waters, and feast upon its glorious teachings. He should then meditate on the import of the word and, finding its spiritual depths, pray for guidance and assistance. But most important, after prayer is action. After one has prayed and meditated, he must arise, rely fully on the guidance and confirmation of Baha'u'llah to teach his faith. Perseverance in action is essential, just as wisdom and audacity are necessary for effective teaching. The individual must sacrifice all things to this great goal, and then the victories will be won.
Very well read, Riaz John. So here the beloved guardian is saying that we must study deeply. We should imbibe his life-giving waters, drink deeply of this. You should meditate on this divine word, and finding its spiritual depths, pray for guidance and assistance. But then what? It's not just leave it there, he says, but most important, after prayer is action. And after one has prayed and meditated, he must arise, relying fully on the guidance and confirmation of Baha'u'llah to teach his faith. Perseverance in action is essential, just as wisdom and audacity are necessary for effective teaching. The individual must sacrifice all things to this great goal, and then the victories will be won. So action is reliance on him, prayer, meditation, study deeply, but then you got to act and go forth and go teach. See, it goes hand in hand. So this is a beautiful extract from the beloved guardian talking about that.
Hey,
yes, my dear friend, please, Tesfai, go for it.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to summarize what you are talking about today is to be all the slides from 74 to 80, all is talking about the teachings and how deep it is, the teachings. But the individual Baha'is, when you come to visualize, the degree of spirituality is very different among us. For the teaching, everyone is not in the same level. It is very hard. When you come to the form of teaching, some people, they have a ability to teach just right in the audience, and some in the fireside, some also in a different way of their own systematic way of manner of teaching. So teaching is not an easy object. And then in writing, as to say here, I can read for you, not all of us are capable of serving in the same way, but the one way every Baha'i I can spread the faith by example. This moves the hearts of people for more deeply than words ever can. In quotation again, the love we show others, the hospitality and understanding, the willingness to help them, these are the very best advertisements of the faith. That's what it says. And then we need to have, individually, when you see the Baha'is, we have to have the Baha'i identity and the social transformation to really teach the faith of God. So, but I don't know how every one of us to be developed and reach to that level and to progress our faith, because we are way behind. But the teachings, the writings, the guardians, is very strong and very deep. So I just try to highlight this because teaching and deepening is not an easy thing.
It's an excellent point, dear Tesfaya. Teaching is an art. And when we think about art, how many forms of art are there in the world? There's hundreds, maybe thousands of types of art in this world. There's, poetry, there's painting, and every one of these types of art has so many different types within them. And this is the same with teaching. Teaching is not one set type. It's not, this is how to teach. There are as many types of teaching as there are people on this planet. And we should learn how to teach by teaching. This is the only really way to learn how to teach, is by doing it, by studying the example of the master and doing all of the things that the beloved guardian is talking about here in the sense of preparation of teaching. So this preparation, and then actually going and doing it. And this reliance on him is so profoundly important. So that it says in this paragraph, he should meditate on the importance of the word and finding its spiritual depths, pray for guidance and assistance. This is something that we need to be doing. We should be praying for assistance in our teaching work. Anytime you open your mouth and utter the name of Baha'u'llah, first, before you even think about teaching the cause, you should turn to Baha'u'llah and call upon him for his aid. And this is something that we need to become part of our regime. Just like we exercise or we diet, it's a pattern of behavior that we do every day. This should be a pattern of behavior in preparation for teaching, as this is our spiritual mandate everywhere in our lives. Not just like, oh yeah, we're going on a teaching campaign, so let's start studying this book on arise to teach, so now we're going to go teach a few people. No, this is when you say I am a Baha'i, this is your life, this is who you are, and this is the reality. With this, if you are a lover of Baha'u'llah, this should emanate from your heart. And so then we should start learning and studying and thinking and praying and observing others in their how they express themselves, and the sense of teaching, because some have pros and some have cons, and how they attract hearts. So we should learn from others, even watch talks and how they come across. And this is something that I do. I watch talks on YouTube and learn from others. And so that our tongue, our expression can touch hearts. This is something how to become a better teacher of the cause. It's something that when your heart is there, you will make opportunities to happen. You will try to refine your ability to teach the cause, because that's something you want to do. It's just like, I want to learn Spanish, so you watch Spanish videos. You go to Spain or something, go to Spanish countries, and you learn Spanish. If you want to be a teacher of the cause, that's where your heart is, you'll make that opportunity happen, right? Excellent. Thank you, dear Tesfa. So here's this incredible quote from Baha'u'llah. It says, immerse yourselves in the ocean of my words, that ye unravel its secrets and discover all the pearls of wisdom that lie hid in its depths. And this is really the entire purpose of the Crimson Academy, so that we go really deep into the writings and study it at a deeper level than just studying it shallowly, that we study everything as deep as we can. Study. Okay?
I love the picture. That's really nice.
Thank you, dear Tesfa.
You immerse yourself like that. Really nice.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, this is from the Beloved Guardian. This is in the... dear Tesfa, if you could read this one for us, please.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Oh. If you rate the utterance of Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha with selflessness and care and concentrate upon them, you will discover truths unknown to you before, and will obtain an insight to the problems that have baffled the great thinkers of the world.
This is an incredible, thank you, dear Tesfa. This is an incredible extract from the Beloved Guardian. It's so true, because this is the new age. This is the age of Baha'u'llah. And as dear Karen was talking about in her that's part 17, talking about the transformative power released by this coming of these twin manifestations, this new energies, this impulse is in this creative word. These are new gems that if you go and study them and read these utterances from His Holiness Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha, and how should you read them? With selflessness and care. And how should we do it? We should concentrate upon them. What will happen? We will discover, we will unravel, we will bring out these gems unknown to even before, and will obtain an insight to problems that have baffled even all the great thinkers of the world, from Aristotle to Plato to Socrates, to you name it. And you, as just an individual in this day and age, you will be at a greater level of understanding than even all the great thinkers of the past. It's an incredible thing that the power of the word in this day and age. So these are a few of some of my favorite quotes and pictures on the importance to read and study. So it says, between the pages of a book is a lovely place to be. And a child who reads will be an adult who thinks. So all those with children, let us encourage them to read, because reading is just so important. And often we forget to read as much as we need to. We don't give it the amount of time it's needed. And then this is a word in Japanese. It's called sunduko. And this is something that many of us do. We buy books and not reading them, we let the books pile up unread on shelves or floors or nightstands. I remember I was with Mr. Nakhjavani. And Mr. Nakhjavani, this is when I was in the World Center, and Mr. Nakhjavani says, he told the friends that were gathered there, he said, the Baha'is are so infinitely blessed by having this revelation from Baha'u'llah. So blessed that we do not know how blessed we are to have this gift of 100 volumes of the writings of Baha'u'llah, the writings of Abdul Baha, the writings of the beloved guardian. And then he said, how many Baha'is have these great libraries in their house? And how many of these great libraries are just building dust? How many of, so he says Baha'u'llah didn't suffer 40 years of imprisonment to build a nice library for Baha'is to sit in their house. He says, how I love it when I enter a Baha'is home and those books are actually being actively read and studied and deepened than just be sitting nicely on people's, wardrobes, or what did they call them? Cupboards, cabinets. So he says, this is how we should be. They should be actively read and studied, right? And then on the extract to the right, it says, books are the quietest and most constant of our friends. They are the most accessible and the wisest of counselors and the most patient of teachers. See, lovely extracts on books and the importance of studying, reading. Okay, and this last one I says, no matter how busy you may think you are, you must find time for reading or surrender yourself to self-chosen ignorance. This is from Confucius. And he was, as Baha'is, he's divinely inspired. So this is an extract from Confucius. And a few more, he says, we must form our minds by reading deep. Deep. This is how we should study. We should form our minds by reading deep rather than wide. You follow? Because if we study really wide, we just have a very shallow, understanding. But we've got to go deep and have a very firm and solid understanding of what we're studying. And this is from His Holiness Abdul Baha. Says, man's speech is the revealer of his heart. And so this is, the more that we study, as we read earlier, it affects a beautiful extract from Abdul Baha. And this is from Baha'u'llah. He says, unless he teacheth his own self, the words of his mouth will not influence the seeker. This is so profound. This is like, if you don't do this, it ain't gonna work. You got to study and deepen and do all of those requirements. You got to study and teach your own self. Because if you go and try to teach, your words will not even influence the heart of the seeker. This is from Baha'u'llah, very clear.
Isan?
Yes, please, dear testify, please.
Yeah, from the scientific point of view, our brain, our mind is just like an umbrella. If you don't open the umbrella is not going to be open. So the way you open your mind and read and deepen yourself, then you learn more and you get your wide and better.
That's true. That's very, very true. Yeah, excellent example. Thank you very much. This is from the beloved guardian. Incredible quote. Let's have a reader. Miss Marianne, if you could be so kind to read this one for us.
If Baha'is want to be really effective in teaching the cause, they need to be much better informed and able to discuss intelligently and intellectually the present condition of the world and its problems. Shoghi Effendi.
Excellent point. So this is about this knowing about the conditions of the world and how we have read that we should be anxiously concerned with the problems of the world, right? So if we want to talk about and teach the cause, we should know what is going on in our world. We should be intelligent and intellectually knowledgeable about the present state of the world and its problems. This is okay.
You know, the two bad problems right now is the race problem and the pandemic. The two are the
That's
most
true.
problem.
Yeah, that's very true. That this problem of we've had racism from day one in this country, but the pandemic has exacerbated it and has magnified the problem in this country and cast a light on the regions of the country that are really have this inequity, social inequities that, and so this is what one of the things the pandemic has done is really shown those type of features. And some of those inequities are from health inaccessibility. Another one is food deserts. There's entire areas that they do not have access to fresh food. There's only junk food areas. And so what happens if why should someone have to drive 30, 40 miles just to get some fresh produce? And so they go to and get unhealthy produce for their families. What does that do? It causes diabetes and heart problems and you name it, and all the sicknesses. And so then that's another one of the major problems. Then environmental problem, it's called environmental racism. There's another major problem which that directly also affected COVID. So environmental racism is if you live in an area that is heavily polluted, because these are low social economic areas, right? These low social economic areas are where businesses have put up factories and plants. And I live in Texas, and in Texas, on the